A few hundred years ago, in the cool alpine areas of Australia's snowy range, you may have been fortunate enough to catch a glimpse of the iconic Corroboree frog. However, it seems now it has become a huge struggle if you're lucky enough to see a single one. This frog species is facing the biggest mass destruction since the age of the dinosaur and has rapidly decreased in numbers to 1/10 of its population. In an effort to save the frogs, Michael McFadden and his team believe an intense breeding program may be the last chance for this one common species. But the question remains, even if the frogs are bred in captivity, how will they survive in the wild against drought and a killer fungus? Sheena Thacker reports.
For the frogs, the main cause of decline is a disease, an introduced fungus called chytrid fungus. It was introduced from Africa back in probably the 30s, 40s and 50s when a certain species of frog was spread all around the world. But more recently, in the 70s, 80s and 90s, it spread throughout Australia and it seems to be the primary cause in the decline of this species.
The chytrid fungus is not a new disease, but was accidentally introduced from Africa and has been around for a while, working by attaching itself onto the frog's skin.
The chytrid fungus is an introduced pathogen that we suspect has come from Africa on frogs introduced to Australia, and it's a disease that's waterborne and infects frog through their skin, and it builds up in large numbers on the frog's skin, particularly on its underside, and then over time it throws out the electrolyte balance of a frog and causes them to have a heart attack and die. In Australia, it's affected some species of frogs and not others. So some species it will cause the decline, and they will get, their populations do reduce quite dramatically. Other species, on the other hand, they seem to be able to tolerate the disease, but certain species in Australia have been pushed to extinction and others to almost extinction just due to this fungus.
Researchers believe that the frog may eventually build up some kind of resistance to the disease if exposed to it enough.
A number of species of frog are building up resistance to the disease. But in recent years, a few species that got smashed by the fungus initially have started to come back in numbers, so we suspect the Corroboree frog probably has the potential to do so, but it's a little bit slower. It doesn't mature to 4 or 5 years of age and only has 25 eggs, so evolution's quite slow in the species compared to some others.
This year alone, thousands of people have visited the zoo in order to catch a glimpse of the tiny frog, which stands as an icon in and around Australia. However, without the success of the breeding program, it won't be long until there'll be nothing left to look at.
Well, the Corroboree frog has declined so much in numbers at the moment. There's only 16 colony males left in the wild this season, so there's potentially less than 100 frogs out there. And without human intervention, they'd probably be extinct in another 3 to 5 years. Through the captive program, and because we have a large population here, hopefully we're going to be able to breed these guys up in large enough number and continue to put eggs back in the wild, and hopefully we'll boost the population at a few sites at the moment, and if that starts to work, we'll expand that to more sites, and hopefully we'll be able to sustain sites in the wild through boosting from the captive produced eggs.
Ursula Munro, an environmental scientist who specialises in the study of these frogs and the chytrid fungus, believes that in time, and with the help of the researchers, that the frogs will develop a resistance to the disease, although only time will tell.
I think as far as is known at the moment, it's actually affecting its skin and does changes to the skin, and it's believed that there's a hardening of the skin happening, and that at times it can actually kill the frog. The frog will actually develop respiratory problems and cannot breathe properly, and then dies from that.
The steady decline for the frog is primarily due to the chytrid fungus, although there are a variety of other factors which are aiding its decline.
There are quite a lot of other factors that affect its decline. That's naturally habitat destruction and degradation. These frogs, they live at Kosciuszko National Park, where there are skiing fields as well, so they are affected by that. They are affected by introduced animals. Could be also later on climate change, if that's going to happen, because that will affect its breeding and its overall existence. So there are a lot of factors that affect the frog. Corroboree frog, it's a beautiful creature actually. It's very small, so it's not a big frog, what a lot of people think. So it's a tiny little frog, and it has these really contrasting colours. It is pitch black and has this really bright yellow spotting. So it's a very striking animal.
Much testing in labs such as this one is required in order to look closely at the main behaviours of this disease. The scientific name, chytrid mycosis, is believed to be transferred by direct contact between frog and tadpole or through exposure of infected water.
There's 3 in there, is there? Oh, look there, he's moving, look. See, look at him.
They go ribbit, ribbit.
Ribbit, ribbit, do they? They go ribbit, ribbit.
Oh, look how small they are. Oh, and there's some more frogging up there. How many are there? 3.
In the past few years alone, there has been a 98% decline of its former range, and without human intervention, the frog would become extinct within the next 3 to 5 years. Until then, the frog's future is still at stake. Sheena Thacker, BBC News.